This is the Volvo EX30, and I think it's probably the most significant Volvo launch of the last 15, could be even 20 years. Why? Because this is Volvo's smallest, cheapest, fastest car on sale. It also happens to be electric, and there is a lot to like about this, involving recycled materials, pace and packaging. So come with me as I finally get behind the wheel of this car and show you all of those things. I'm Jonny Smith, you're watching The Late Break Show, and this episode is proudly supported by blackcircles.com, Britain's largest online tyre retailer. You might notice that I've got pieces of paper instead of my normal car pervert notebook, and that's because, well, they were out of stock. They've all been bought, but by the time you watch this video, they will be back in stock in our merch store. Anyway, on to more important things. This car, the EX30, what is it exactly? Well, like I said before in the intro, it is a small car and it's classed as a premium SUV. Scrap the word SUV. It isn't an SUV, and that's a good thing. It's not a particularly high up car for a start, and it's not a particularly big footprint, but it does offer lots of cabin space and boot space for those dimensions. It's electric only, and it's been designed on an electric only platform, which it comes from the Geely part of Volvo's business, the Chinese end, as well as the drivetrain, which means the architecture that this is based on underneath is shared with cars like the Smart #1 and also the Lotus Eletra. So it's a scalable, I think, 5 different variants of size of platform. So it comes with 2 different battery sizes, which I'll talk about in more detail. It comes as a single motor or a dual motor. This car is the extended battery size with the single motor, because I think this is not only the longest range, 298 mile W8 LTP. I also think this is probably going to be the sweet spot ultimately. It starts at 33 grand, but they promise it's going to start even cheaper than that once it's been launched at the back end of this year and customer deliveries start being wheeled out. So it's seriously competitive, especially for a car with a premium badge on it. Volvo have not been hanging about. And talking of hanging about, performance. In dual motor form, this will do low 3 seconds to 62. 3 seconds to 62. Even this one's the slowest one, and this does it in 5.5 seconds. So it's rapid across the board. So good range, rapid performance, and keenly priced. At a time when so many manufacturers are building very big SUVs, which aren't actually brilliantly packaged, this promises so much. And that's why I wanted to come out here to Barcelona to get in it as quickly as possible. Okay, the profile of the EX30. I actually forgot to say, the front end was inspired by, according to the head of exterior design of Volvo, T. John Mayer, he said this was inspired by a science fiction helmet. Okay, like a stormtrooper, I guess. But one thing I like about the side here is this shape here is very boxy. I've driven to the airport to go on this launch in a C40 Recharge. The XC40, the C40, they're both fully electric. The C40's got more of a coupe bum, more of a Beetleback, and this whole SUV Beetleback thing is nonsense, because you're basically buying a chunkier, bigger car in order to cut off some valuable storage. One thing we'll know about when we go inside this car is very practical. It's full of cubbies and interesting storage solutions, and I like that in a car like this. It's a family car after all. And this is Volvo. They like safety, they like practicality. Good. This is two-tone, this particular car, as you can see, and again this kind of grooved plastic takes up that belly area to probably shrink its proportions down a little. It's not a tall car. I'll put the dimensions above my head. It's actually shorter than an MG4, would you believe, which is again not a very big car. So that belly pan there that's clad in that plastic, now obviously the battery pack lives down there. And they've used 2 different battery chemistries for the 2 different battery sizes that this car is available in, which I find interesting. The reason for that is cost, really. So the entry-level battery is 49 kilowatt hours usable, and that's only in the single motor entry-level car. Okay? The 64 kilowatt hour usable battery pack which is the one in this, which is the long range single motor, or in the dual motor performance model, that is lithium manganese cobalt, which is more energy dense and more expensive. The cheaper one is lithium phosphate. But again, you, the customer, get the choice, and it means this car can start from eventually £31,000 on the road. Not bad, considering it's got a Volvo badge. Look how they've pushed the wheelbase to the far extremities of the car. Now this particular model I like because it comes on 19-inch wheels. The performance dual motor version comes on 20s. What's this one on? It's on Goodyear 245/45 19s. Now when it comes to needing new tyres for your car, whether you drive an SUV, an electric SUV or an electric car, head to the Black Circles website. Head to the Black Circles website, enter your vehicle registration number and your postcode, and then you'll find the most suitable tyres for your car and your budget. There are thousands of reviews of different tyres from real customers to help you choose the best tyres for your car. And with the Black Circles Click and Fit service, with over 2,000 tyre fitting partners, there will be a garage or a mobile tyre fitter conveniently located near you. ...272 horsepower, 343 newton meters of torque. I think it's limited to 112 miles an hour top speed, but nobody cares about top speed anymore because you can't do it. Very, very quiet. I just heard a draft. It's because I had actually not put the window up all the way. And remember, those inboard switches for the electric windows there, that's to keep all this space and simplicity on the door cards. And cost. Lower cost. I've got several cars with these. Our old Jimny had inboard switches and my Honda Insight has inboard switches, and again it's because the door cards are simpler and give a broader cabin feel. And talking of broader cabin feels, the speakers are of course now up there. There's no door speakers. You have this sound bar, this Harman Kardon sound bar, which stretches the full width of the dash top. And you're looking at the steering wheel, right? And you're going, that's not circular. No, it's not. I'd say that's actually quartic. So for all these decades that people have taken the piss out of Austin Allegros, and I am a proud owner of one if you know my Project Allegro Type R sleeper, that's basically a quartic steering wheel, is it not? Come on. But it's it's a nice thin rim and it's ergonomic. It does feel good actually. Now while we're driving slowly behind this post-siesta traffic that we're in, the single motor is rear wheel drive, multi-link rear suspension, McPherson strut front end. The weight varies on the EX30 depending on whether you go for the entry level smaller battery, the dual motor or the single motor car. So they're all around about 1.8 tons. Love the frameless rear view mirror, love the frameless door mirrors. It's all very Volvo. In fact, it's all very simple and Volvo, but it does irritate me that Tesla-esque speedo is there. That's the only place the speedo is, not here. I just think, like the Model 3, they really dropped the ball. They could have just used a fairly cost-effective head-up display. Head-up displays are brilliant, and they're discreet. Why? Why put it in the middle? I don't want to turn my head to look at what speed I'm doing when I come into a speed limit. I want to be looking ahead, looking up and down, not to the side, but there we go. This bar at least, although it's all touchscreen, there's no real buttons at all, at least the bottom row stays permanent with things like HVAC, hazard warning, and going into your car mode like that, I can activate things like one pedal driving. There we go, one pedal driving. I mean, I think I've driven this for about the last 40 minutes. I do think the ride quality is exceptional. Spanish roads tend to be pretty good, so it always will feel different when you bring it back to your own country, your own turf, but acoustically it's very quiet and visibility is pretty good too. Remember, this is not really an SUV. In fact, a Volvo insider said to me, they're only calling it an SUV so it sells, so it's just a name. It's not really an SUV. I think the lines of SUV definition are being blurred by the year anyway, because this is a crossover, or this is a high up hatchback, which is sort of a crossover. And even then it's not that high up, is it? So the lines are constantly blurring. But the good news is, in my head anyway, it's not an SUV, and it's definitely not a coupe SUV, which is a totally pointless genre of car. The back end. I really like the back end of the EX30. There is definitely that DNA of Polestar, Volvo, the old school script in chrome, pleasantly across the boot lid. I love the fact that to open the boot lid, it's not all down here where all the mud and muck goes, it's a button just there. I love the fact that it's quite squared off, which hopefully gives you a little bit more boot space than these sort of cut off kind of coupe SUV things. This is 318 litres of space with this false floor drop down, like so. And if you want to, you can drop the back seats. And if you drop the back seats, which go completely flat, you get over 900 litres of storage. And I'll show you what it looks like now. So yeah, drop that tailgate down and you can see these are the things that we expect from Volvo. You've got these high-rise light clusters up here and this kind of like hip line, which we've seen in Volvos over the last 25 years or more. I just think it's good, and like hardly any overhangs at all. It's another electric car which has an actual rear wiper. These are quite useful, especially in countries like Britain. Round here on the EX30 is where you charge it, obviously Type 2 and CCS charging. It can charge up to 175 kilowatts DC rapid, 28 minutes from 10% to 80%, or just under 8 hours, I think, to do a full charge overnight on a wall box. It's got these bungs, which I don't particularly like because they get in the way, but it's a cost-cutting exercise, I'm sure. Just remember, this is on an EV-only platform. This is not an adapted piston car. And it is, like I said in the intro, it is Volvo's cheapest car, irrespective of the fact it's an EV. So people are saying, oh, I'd really like an affordable EV. Well, no, it's not 15 grand. No, it's not 20 grand. But it's a premium badged, good-sized European family EV that does 300 miles for just over 30 grand. I like this, I do. When I looked at pictures of it and I read the spec about it and the thought processes behind it, I did think this sounds like this could be a really good car. And the thing is, you know, I am fortunate. I get to drive a lot of cars, certainly anywhere before considering buying them. And I am a tough crowd when it comes to EVs, I think. I've become quite jaded with so many of the big, bloated, unnecessarily luxurious, heavy SUVs that actually don't fit on most British roads. But this is not that. This is better than that. This makes more sense. It's got a great range, it's got good performance. It's interesting. I can't believe how quick even the most basic of the EX30s is, 0 to 60. So I'm just going to do a 0 to 60 quickly now. This will do it in 5.3 seconds. 3, 2, 1. I mean, man, that's quick. And that's the thing. The fastest, the twin motor performance model does it in 3.6 seconds, right, to 62. Anything below 4.5 seconds is devastatingly fast these days. That we know, right? I think this car, I maintain the single motor rear wheel drive is the sweet spot. 5.3 seconds to 62 on an everyday car is really fast. I think we get carried away with massive figures. That's really fast. Volvo's had this tough task of making the EX30 feel premium, but by obviously trying to cut quite a lot of cost in order to sell it for what they're trying to sell it for. What's interesting is as soon as you open the door, you're met with a really sculpted out, plasticky, quite hard door panel, which doesn't have any speakers, it doesn't have any switch gear in it. It has a very nice sort of floating armrest though, and that's because all that stuff from the door carcass has been put in here in the middle. So the electric windows are here on this big armresty plinth thing. So this stuff is now a combination of recycled materials. There are 4 different trim levels on the EX30. Let me sit in. There are 4 different trim levels, or rooms as Volvo call them, on the EX30. Breeze, which this one is, Indigo, Mist or Pine. And each one has different renewable and recycled materials that they're championing. For example, the Breeze one here, this sort of speckled brutalist finish of plastic here, this comes from ground up window frames and roller shutters. Seriously, but I think it looks really good. And again, it's celebrating the sort of rawness and it's the honesty of it in combination with the plush materials that I really like. This is the updated Google Infotainment screen. We've seen this in current Polestar and Volvos. This evolves it even more. Gear selector, you just knock this down into D. It's like an American style column shift. And I quite like that. Lots of piano black. Because this is a flat floor car, because it's an EV platform from Geely, we've seen it on the Smart Hashtag 1, we've seen it all the way up to the Lotus Eletra, you could have left it completely open. And there's nothing wrong with that. I quite like a completely open floor, but you can utilise it if you want, like this, to have cubbies with depth. We've got here, this is where you put your key card. This is the key card that will be available as an app. You blip it on the B pillar to unlock it. This is wireless charging, and it's really fascinating because it's actually got like a kind of rubberized grit to stop the phone from jangling about. In fact, all of this is rubberized. And then you open this trapdoor and there's another rubberized tray down here with USB-Cs. And it goes right back. Then I reach underneath this armrest and there's a hard storage area, and I'm pretty sure that's for when we go in the back, so we'll do that in the back. Then, next to the electric windows, I press that and I get 2 cup holders, or I guess I can push that back and I'm more rubberized storage. If I press it once, I get 1 cup holder. If I press it again, it just disappears. I like this sort of innovation. This is practicality and it's creative. I'm down with it. And then actually I was reading just before I got in the car, there are other materials that you can get from the seats, because this seat material is obviously quite light in colour and like a kind of faux leather with fabric at the top here. They do upcycled denim fibres for some of them. They do flax, which is, I guess, linseed plant as well. Wool blend, 70% recycled polyester seat upholstery. They do Nordico bio-attributed material from Finnish and Swedish pine oil. They've really gone to town on trying to find interesting different materials. Oh, glove box. There isn't a glove box on the passenger side like a traditional car. There is a glove box. Oh, I have to double touch it. Okay, there's a glove box here, right in the middle, like a little tray. That's neat. I like that. At the back, there's even more cubby holes, which is say, oh, and we've got these vertical slot vents here, here, there, and there. The dash is actually really simple, but I like simple if it's done well. There are reminiscent, these raw materials, this interesting use of new types of fabrics. These harder plastics here, they are hard to the touch, but there is an honesty to them which I like. The BMW i3 did all this stuff quite a long time ago and it still looks amazing even now. But you sit in this car and it makes you think, hang on a minute, the C40 Recharge that I drove to this actual launch in, and the XC40 Recharge, they're 10 and 12,000 pounds more than this car. 12 grand. 12 grand's a lot of money. Does this car feel any less special? Does it ride any worse? Is it worse? No, not at all. So the EX30, and by the way, the EX30 badges, I've seen another one on the side of the dash, and there's obviously one on this pillar back here on the side. I'm sitting behind where I've just been sitting in the driver's seat. I've put it forward a nudge, and it's a flat floor, like I said, so the person in the middle, it's a 5-seater, the person in the middle will have more legroom. There's no transmission hump. There's not a great deal of legroom, I have to say. I mean, I'm quite long-legged. And also, This really matters if people get nauseous and, you know, sickness. Because it's a one-piece seat, you can't see through it, so smaller people might find that intrusive. That's not just a Volvo thing, that's many new cars at the moment. I shut the door and I'm reminded of something I didn't mention at the front. Look at the interior door handles. They're this beautiful brushed aluminium line. It's weird, it's almost Art Deco, which goes against the sort of brutalist concrete effect of this. And again, a floating armrest. I like the effort that's been put in here. Pockets in the back of the seats. Here's another water bottle to represent that. Pano roof I've always liked, gives you that little bit more headroom, and I've got loads of headroom actually. Most interestingly, remember that centre console with all the nifty bits in? Come back here, another 2 USB-Cs, the electric windows, and once again, in the middle here, there's another little plinth which is rubberised, I think for a mobile phone or chewing gum. And then this cubby which went all the way from down there. It is actually rubberised down there, but it has a lift-out tray thing, which has an embossed moose on it, and trees. And some Chinese symbols, because of course it's made by Volvo in China. So there's quite a lot to enjoy here. It's not littered with stuff. I think that's what I like about the design externally and internally. It is quite, lets it breathe, quite plain, but good plain, confidently plain. It's just I wish there was a speedo above the driver, you know? What do you think? Let me know in the comments, I'm really keen to know. Right, give it a little punch. It's really smooth, the whole thing is very smooth. Obviously it's quiet because it's an EV, but even so, you can sometimes hear, wind noise and things like that, and it feels like it's very, very well put together actually. And I've got no problem with cost cutting if things are interesting. If you're going to take cost away, add creativity or practicality, then I'm all ears. There's a lot of rivals to the EX30. I mean, it's cheaper than so many cars, which are a bit of a surprise really. Cheaper than quite a few of the Stellantis group cars, even though the Citroën C3 Electric's just been launched, and that's keenly priced. It's right in the middle of the multi-award winning Hyundai Kona, Kia e-Niro, about the same size I think. This is doing very well to hide its curb weight, and I've seen EV manufacturers are getting better and better at that. The thing is, it's not even just EVs being heavy these days. Cars are heavy, and it's become a real problem, which is why I don't think the solution is to make cars bigger. Solution is to make cars smaller, and to that end the cabin is roomy, especially up here, but I do wonder why the bonnet's so long. I do wonder whether they could have elongated the cabin a bit more to give us, the occupants, a bit more space, because that frunk is token. There is something quite cosy and hygge about a Volvo. Volvo have always been good at cocooning interiors and good materials and hopefully hard wearing stuff. Yeah, you can be doing 100 kilometers an hour, 62, give it a punch. You've definitely got enough torque. After I allocated 3 hours drive with the car, I wanted to talk with the Volvo design and development team associated with creating this crucially important baby EV. So I headed into Barcelona to meet them.
My name is Lisa Reeves. I'm head of interior design at Volvo Cars. I'm here with the EX30, and we've designed the EX30 with the material palettes that are from both recycled materials and also natural regrowable materials. This tray here is from one of our recycled rooms called Indigo, and we have in this car denim fibers, waste from the denim industry. So the long fibers recycle back into the industry, but the short fibers, we've used those to make this pulp paper. And with that paper, we've been able to press it and make panels for the interior of the car that run along the instrument panel and the top of the doors. So you get this really nice blue mottly effect in the car from the denim fibers.
Mm-hmm. That's really nice.
Yeah.
Florian, what's your job title?
My job title is Senior Manager Exterior Design of EX30.
Did you design other Volvos previous to this?
I worked on XC60 before this as well.
XC60?
Yes.
Right, okay. So I think this is pretty good because it's hard to get a distinctive face on an electric car without a grille. But
Absolutely.
You seem to have pulled it off.
Yeah, you're talking about one of the points that was quite dear to me and which I'm quite proud of at the final product. Because that was quite a tricky thing because people are obviously quite used to cars with grilles.
Yeah.
But because we are the Scandinavian brand, we really like to have stuff that makes sense, so form follows function.
Yeah.
And as you guys know, on an electric car, there's really no need for the upper grille.
No.
So we thought, let's get away with it. There's no need. Let's save the parts and be a bit more conscious about the environment.
Improve the aero, surely. What is it?
Improve the aero as well. But we played,
0.28 coefficient?
exactly. But we played quite some tricks to still make it look good. Like when you put a regular headlamp next to this, you will see that this is actually substantially longer than a traditional headlamp.
Ah,
And
right.
to minimize the surface left a bit.
Yeah.
And we also pulled the black graphic up quite a bit to make just enough space for our precious logo. And then again, form follows function. We used this black graphic that we have here to put all the sensors, the radars and the air curtain in there to have everything in between quite nice and clean.
I've had a bit of time to mull over what I really think of the EX30. I've spoken to the people who have created this car, and it is not an easy feat to create a small premium feeling car at a low price tag that's immensely fast and has immensely good range for an electric vehicle. And is damn handsome, frankly. Volvo's almost created a disruptor, has it not? I think. There are some things that I love about it. Smooth ride, beautiful cabin, and celebrating these renewable and recycled materials I think is something we need to see more of in the industry. I don't particularly like the fact that I don't have a speedo right in front of me and there's no head-up display. That really jars with me. And I would like a bit more space in the back here. But you know what? For the tag, the price tag they're selling this at, the fact that it will come in a smidge over 30 grand, this is no easy feat. Creating a car like this is so much harder than a big 80, 90,000 pound bloated luxury SUV that actually isn't fit for purpose really in countries like Europe because it doesn't really fit on the road. Whereas this does a lot for me, and I think this will do a lot for a lot of other people. Hope you've enjoyed this episode of The Late Break Show. If you haven't already subscribed, why not subscribe? And I welcome comments about the EX30. Let me know.